This is the enigmatic town in which I reside. This town is a suburb of a major city and is completely engulfed in greenery. This town is pretty much in the center of a large forest. It is mostly a suburb where people live and they commute to somewhere else every day for work. The town is mostly quiet, but it does have its fair share of crimes and illegal activities. There are break-ins, but they are mostly in a small business district. There have been quite a few occasions, though, where people's houses got broken into. This town has grown a lot in the last decade. There are more and more businesses rapidly appearing. A few months ago, I have graduated animation school with a bachelor's degree in 3D animation. I am still looking for a job, but I still have not found anything. It may be a very long time before I find anything. Almost every day I'm on the internet searching for a job, since the internet's the only real way anyone could find an animation job in the world of today. The animation industry is pretty large, and there are a number of things in the industry that I specialize in, and I'm looking for a job in, such as script writing, design, storyboard, animatics, sculpting, animating in 2D or 3D, video editing, motion graphics, and even post-production. What I love is obviously animation, since it is a key pinnacle point in storytelling for film, TV, video games, and more. I often ask myself where I would be if animation did not exist. I know I'd probably be a comic book writer, or a book writer maybe, or a computer programmer. I also quite enjoy the computer coding. What I wish I could change about the world is to make it easier for anyone to travel from one part of the world to another. Travel is very difficult, and it's more difficult than most non-travelers think. I wish it were easier for someone like me to move to the southern tropical United States, or even Australia, or even somewhere in southern Europe. My biggest goal in life is to move away from this small town and move somewhere that has a nice climate. What I have in my pocket is my desire to always come up with more. I'm always thirsty for ideas for things I can incorporate in animation. I am constantly on the ball with animation concepts. I visited a wax museum once, and it gave me an idea for an episode of a series I write about called Odyssey of Oddities. The episode involves replacing real-life people with wax duplicates. These wax duplicates look so much like the original that it's impossible to tell them apart. I think Odyssey of Oddities may be the greatest series I ever came up with. It very much is a reflection on how I think of society. It is also the most realistic series I ever came up with. It mostly focuses on these characters that are stuck in some insane prison disguised as a town, and they even try to break free from the town in almost every episode, in a lot of episodes, but their plans pretty much always fail. There is also an evil mayor that constantly hinders their progress to make matters worse. I hope this gets made into something one day. It is also a spin-off of another series I created called Jason and Mason. Jason and Mason was not my first series I came up with, but it was the earliest series I came up with that sets the standards for what my current works are. Jason and Mason's about these twin brothers that are stuck at home in San Francisco with each other, and they go about their business, and they end up in the crossfire of someone else's conflict, and they end up having to fight in someone else's conflict. They often end up having to help their superhero friend Captain Fusion battle another one of his villains. Some pretty insane and wacky things have happened in Jason and Mason, and all these seeds, so to speak, that it planted, had led the way for a lot of my other series that I've created, the series and characters I've created. These other characters or franchises would include Odyssey of Oddities, Justice Knight, Ivan's War, and I'm sure there are a lot more things to come. I often see myself as someone that people will look up to for inspiration in the future. Or at least that's how I see it. I don't know if other people see it like that, but that's just how I see it as. I also have a career as what I guess could be called an internet personality. I have uploaded several videos to various websites on the internet over the last 3 years. Most of my videos are about gaming. I mostly just make single videos where I play a game, but I have done full playthroughs of games before. I just recently finished playing through a game, and I have a long lineup of plans for more games I plan on doing full playthroughs of. Here's a local take a book or leave a book. You can leave books here or take books in this little house. I go by the name of Ray Phoenix on all the platforms that I publish content onto. I also publish a lot of my artistic works to the world's largest art sharing site. I have written stories and created a whole multiverse of characters and even events that can surely stand as worthy competitors to some of the major franchises we currently have. I also actively upload my works to archive.org so all my work can be preserved for generations to come, because I know the internet's the way of the future. Archive.org really has provided an awesome service by preserving movies, TV, software, and more. Since my local libraries haven't closed for the last several months, I've had to turn to archive.org for books. Also, because a lot of the books I want to read are very rare or obscure, my library doesn't have them. The only alternative to that would be if I bought them somewhere, but I don't want to really pay $10 or more for a book I'm only going to read once. Who does that? I spend most of my days with my PC turned on sitting in front of me. I use my PC for pretty much everything in day-to-day life. I haven't been able to go to my library in the last several months, so I'm dependent on the internet for books and movies and shows. I also use my computer to apply for jobs, and I even use my computer to interact and connect with friends all over the world. I've even made friends with people online that I may not have met otherwise. The only way you could really apply for jobs in this day and age is through, the internet. That's why the internet's such a blessing that we hang in this day and age. I'm still not overly famous over the internet. The most famous thing I ever did online was leave a comment on a video on famous songs that are covers. Look, here is Buddha. He is large and obese. He has overly large man boobs. He is proof that obesity has existed long before fast food restaurants were around. People blame restaurants for obesity. I also got this filming technique from a universally recognized British comedy icon. This is where I live. Yeah, so I can see someone's watching. So I can see someone's watching me now, and there's people add stuff to them that they like to their favorite stuff of mine. That's really good. Yep, yep, just the usuals, all the regulars, everyone I would expect. Yeah, so quite the library of artwork on here actually. Look at this. This is stuff I drew yesterday. Learned how to do animations. Look, there's a GIF image I made, an animated GIF. And there's some stories. I type out stories you see here. I put the PDFs on this website so people can read them. Not very many people actually read these things, but I still like having them on there. It's still good to preserve them. To preserve everything I worked on, my sculpts even. I do sculpting quite a bit. Here's some designs for a toy that I made. I sculpted a toy of mine. He's drinking a juice box and wielding a sword. He's a knight that does that. I'd make an awesome toy. Here's a mural I painted on my birthday last year. I'm probably going to paint another one on my birthday this year, which is only coming up in a few weeks. So I pretty much spend my day-to-day life going on the computer. My computer's my life, as I said earlier, typing out these cover letters for all the different companies I apply to. Almost every company I apply to requires a cover letter. See, whatever, for any kind of animation company or whatever it is. So I type out my cover letter on here. It's usually a simple letter saying, yes, I think I'd be good for this job. I'd be great for this role. Simply because, I have a bachelor's degree in 3D animation. And I think I would perform well. I would do well in the job. And I think I will, do justice to what the job is supposed to be. Yeah. So here's some sculpts I made this stage. I also spend a lot of my time sculpting. Sculpting's another thing I'm truly passionate about. I always do it on the software, on the computer software sculpting. I also paint them afterwards too, make these turntables. They spin around. They look like something could be a glass doll that could be on display somewhere, or maybe a glass toy somewhere, and same with this one. Some of them are simple. Some of them are a bit more complex. I've only made like maybe 12 or 13 of them. Then again, I've only been sculpting for a little over a year now, and to make a sculpt, it takes at least 20 hours or so to make a sculpt. Not 20 hours, more like 10 hours or at least to do a sculpt, even a simple one like the one you're seeing right now. So yeah, it takes a long time to sculpt. And here's another proud sculpt of mine, the Ultraverse Keith. He's actually one of my more interesting characters, considering the complex history around him. Yeah, he appears in some of my writings a lot of the time, all the writings that I've made. So here's everything I typically do in day-to-day life. I illustrate my characters. I draw out my characters. So this is Ivan, a character from a series I currently write about called Ivan's War, the main character. He's kind of a character that gets the raw end of the deal in his life. So what does he do? He abandons what he has. So he goes to a place called the Ultraverse, where several universes exist. And he joins the Ultraverse monks, where he becomes a monk in the Ultraverse, where they travel around the different universes. They solve injustices. They fight off evil that threatens the safety of all the different universes. The inter-universal conflicts, I guess is what you could call them. And Ivan's merely a player. So you see when I draw my characters, I use character construction techniques. You don't just simply draw what's there. You construct the characters. You draw out the proper line work, the proper necessary lines, and the construction lines to build a sense of anatomy of the character and a sense of physique behind the character as well. Too. You don't just simply draw an outline of the character. You draw a lot more than simply what is seen. It's called construction, character construction. A lot of the great animators use character construction skills. It's something I've been taught a lot in animation school. You don't even have to go to animation school to learn these techniques. You can learn them from me. Maybe I should make more videos like this. What do you guys think? Yeah, that'd be funny if I did. But now I'm told I'm not that good at this. But I'd still try anyways. It's still good to practice. This is still good to practice creating designs and concepts. This is something I plan on doing for a job in the future. So I might as well learn it now. Learn the ropes now. So, I'll be good at it in the far, long, grand scheme of things. So here's the Ivan character now in his full completed glory, as you can see. So next I'm going to draw a common character that Ivan often teams up with, often, battles evil with. Kind of showed you him a little earlier. The Ultraverse Keith. Now Keith has a really interesting backstory. You see, he began as a rival character to the Mason character I have in Jason and Mason. He's also a brainiac genius kid like Mason. Keith kid uses his powers more for, not things that aren't so good. But then he eventually learned to turn himself around in an epic story I documented and put on the internet sites I upload stuff to, called Jason and Mason Ultraverse, where he ends up in the Ultraverse and then he learns to turn himself around and he becomes the Ultraverse monk. So he learned the error of his ways, he turned around, and now he fights off all sorts of bizarre villains that exist in the Ultraverse with other Ultraverse monks. He also has a friend named Roswell. It's an anthropomorphic parrot. That's right, we start to see anthropomorphic characters, anthropomorphic animal-like characters. So I guess the furry community might be proud of me for that. So, as you see here, I'm doing more construction techniques and just kind of edging it. Well, not really edging it out, but I'm just drawing out the character techniques, the character construction. So here's a more completed Keith, and look at the completed scene. You don't just draw the character standing there. No, you draw him in a scene. I see I drew him in a snow globe. So this isn't everything I typically do in day-to-day life. I write the stories. Here's how I write. I typically go to the computer and I document. I have so many ideas or possible story concepts that I pretty much write all of them down. But in this case, I type them on the computer because it's more efficient. So this isn't everything I typically do a lot. And then I put these on the internet, as you saw earlier. So you see in this document the story, document all the necessary details. It's not so much a script, and you're not documenting every single individual thing. You're just really documenting, what the overall storyline is and the overall points of plot and things like that. Not the whole thing word for word. And so, now you know what I typically do in a day-to-day life. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is Ray Phoenix, signing out.